Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Seidel. I'm the Bauman and Bryant Senior Lecturer in the Arts and Education and the Faculty Director of the Arts and Education Master's Program here at HGSE. It's my pleasure to welcome you here to the first Askwith Forum of this academic year. And I'd also like to welcome all those who have joined us via live stream. It's great to have you with us. Today's Askwith Forum is being held in conjunction with MIT Open Learning. Their mission is to transform teaching and learning at MIT and around the globe through the innovative use of digital technologies. So I'd like to make a special welcome to students and colleagues from MIT. It's great to have you here. I'm delighted that today we will hear and learn from Andria Zafirakou, the 2018 Global Teacher Prize winner. But before I introduce Andria a little bit more formally, I'd like to say a few words about the Askwith Forums and those who are joining us here for the first time. The Askwith Forums bring leaders in the education field to our campus to share knowledge, experience, and insights. This forum was established to strengthen the intellectual life of the school through the exchange of ideas, through lively conversation, and through debate. They are also a great way to open our doors to welcome members of the larger Harvard community and the general public. So in that spirit, I would like to especially extend a special welcome to all those here today from the broader, larger community. I'm also realizing that many of you are students here for the first time. This is your first Askwith Forum. Welcome. It's great to have you here. Last year, for example, more than 200,000 people joined us on campus and online for 14 of the forums that we had here. This year, in addition to tonight's forum on the power of the arts in education and what it means to be a global educator, our fall lineup includes forums on the global pursuit for equity and inclusion and collaborative action in education. Some of the guest speakers this year will include Michael Sandel, the political philosopher and professor of the celebrated Harvard Justice course, the former Deputy Minister of Education for Colombia, Luis Garcia de Brigard, and Michael McAfee, the CEO of Policy Link. And most importantly, write it down. In light of the upcoming midterm elections and Harvard's participation in the Harvard Votes Challenge, I invite each and every one of you to join us on Monday, October 1st, for a session called Your Vote Counts: Education, Voting, and the Midterms. That forum will be moderated by Paul Revel. It will feature a panel with the Ed School's Mira Levinson, Arkan Fung from the Harvard Kennedy School, and the former mayor of Newton, Massachusetts, Seti Warren, who is now executive director of the Shorenstein Center at the Harvard Kennedy School. So please come to that. Please register to vote. Please make sure you do vote. For more information on these forums and any of the other Askwith forums, please visit our website. It's all there. Okay. Now back to our reason for being here today. It's a great honor to welcome the winner of the Global Teacher Prize here at HGSE. This is an annual $1 million prize. It was launched in 2014 by the Varkey Foundation. It recognizes an exceptional teacher who has made an outstanding contribution to his or her profession. This year, the Global Teacher Prize received more than 30,000 nominations and applications. The success of the Global Teacher Prize has inspired countries around the world, this is just in a few years, remember, to set up their own awards to find and honor their best teachers. Today, there are over 40 national teacher prizes in countries all around the world, from Latin America to Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. The goal of the prize is to raise the stature of the teaching profession. The foundation believes that the status of teachers in our cultures is critical to our global future. I heartily agree, and I suspect many of you here today share that belief as well. We are delighted that Vikas Pota, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, and Kate Noble, CEO of the Varkey Foundation, are here this evening with other members of their team as well. It's wonderful to have you here on Appian Way. Please join me right now in thanking the Varkey Foundation and its visionary founder, Sunny Varkey, for their efforts in recognizing and celebrating the impact of teachers on their students, their communities, their countries, and the world. Andria Zafirakou, the winner of this year's Global Teacher Prize, is an arts and textiles teacher from Northwest London. She has worked her entire teaching career of 12 years at the Alperton School, the Alperton Community School, in the London borough of Bryant, where she is now Associate Deputy Head Teacher, leading staff professional development. Bryant is one of the most ethnically diverse places in the United Kingdom, with 130 languages spoken in its schools. In a moment, we will hear from Andria about her work at Alperton and the impact she has made in that school and in that community, and why she believes that art needs to be, as her title suggests, at the heart of the education of every child, both in the curriculum and in the daily life of the school itself. Andria now has an opportunity to make even broader impact as the 2018 Global Teacher Prize winner. For me, it is always a great pleasure to be in dialogue with classroom teachers and educators who spend every day of their professional lives in schools, to learn how they understand their purposes, how they approach challenges and opportunities, how they create community in schools, how they collaborate with their colleagues, parents, and others, and especially what they've learned from their students. In my experience, it's through the relentless pursuit of quality and equity over many years of daily life in schools that the most important insights and innovations in educational practice emerge. We have a wonderful opportunity for such a conversation this afternoon. So here's how we're going to proceed from here. Andria will come up and will share with us a bit about her life, her work, her teaching, her school. I will then join her a little bit later and we'll have a conversation. And before we need to wrap up for the day, I will turn to you all, open it up, and ask you for thoughts and questions. How's that sound? Do we have a plan? Okay. Please join me in a very warm and hearty congratulations and welcome to Andria Zafirakou.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. And this is for you.
Thank you. And I think this is for me as well. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Yeah. First of all, students who are in this room who are just about to take their midterms, who should be studying, but are here today, thank you. I will try not to let you down or to bore you to death. But as Steve said, my name is Andria Zafirakou, and I've actually been teaching now for 13 years. So September was my 13th year at my school, Alperton Community School. And believe it or not, I am an art teacher, a textiles teacher, and also this year's holder of the Varkey Foundation's Global Teacher Prize. And I still have to pinch myself because that's quite an extraordinary achievement. So this is what happened to me. So in March this year, I attended an awards ceremony in Dubai, whereby I was voted alongside 10 other spectacular human beings who are teachers in their own communities all over the world. And I was nominated as one of the top 10 out of quite a few other nominations. And I won. And I'm still pinching myself because there's no way in this world I would have ever believed that could be possible. I mean, an art teacher, I mean, okay, STEM, definitely. Science, absolutely. But art, what is going on? But yet, here I am, and I'm privileged. Terrified, but privileged. Because this is now something that is beginning to plant some seeds in people's heads. Say, well, hang on a minute, you know, there's something going on in our world about the arts. You know, we need them. Our children need them. And I believe I'm in the right place, in the right moment to tell you why we need them. Because I work in a school whereby I see every single day how the arts transform lives. And as art educators, and can I just have a show of hands, who is an arts educator? Oh, lovely. Okay, my people, right, wonderful. So we know how important our jobs are. And if you don't know, I am telling you right now, you have got the most incredible job in the world. Remember that. Because we're going to have very difficult days in our schools, and we have had very difficult days in our schools, and we are fighting against sometimes curriculums and leaderships who don't think the arts are important, but we know they are, and they will remain because you are in that position. And together we'll make sure we'll get it locked down. Is that right? No, is that right? Yeah. There you go. Thank you very much, come on. Okay, so let me take you on a journey to my school. So these are my kids, these are my students, and I absolutely adore working in my school. As Steve said to you, I work in a school with approximately 1,500 students. The age range that I teach art to is 11 years old to 18, and so we have that, we call that Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4, Key Stage 5 back at home in the UK. When I grew up, I had art in my blood. It was there. I was very creative all the time. But I had a problem, and my problem was that when I had to decide what my GCSE options were, which was when you choose what subjects you'd like to do, my parents, being beautiful and amazing as they are, could not understand what the arts could help me to do in terms of getting a career. So I would have my parents say, Andrea, no, not arts, go, history, geography, do not take the arts. What jobs? So I am actually quite fortunate because I am now able to provide that same support to my children, because my children in my school, they have that same situation whereby they are grown in a society whereby, again, the arts aren't valued from external sources. They know, they feel it, it's in them. They want to take the subject, they need it, but they feel that they can't, they're not allowed to. So again, it's something that we need to be very mindful as art educators here, that we need to try and find a way to make sure that we communicate this to our society as well. So there they are, my children. I teach 12 classes, or last year I taught 12 classes, in a range, just to give you an example, I would have students with a reading age of 15, if they are 12 years old, so quite gifted. And then I'd have students with a reading age of about 7, and they were the same age. So it's a very diverse community, extremely diverse, and that is what brings the magic into the classroom. Absolute magic. Because what we're doing, we are learning from each other. We are helping each other. We are leading the way for each other. We are collaborating. We are supporting each other. And we are teams. In my classroom, we are all a team. Nobody is leading. We are all working together. So I'm going to show you some slides of some student work. Now, these are from students who are 14 years old. And I want to ask you a question, and it's a quiz, and I only do hands up. So please raise your hands. But which one do you think from these students, and there are two boys here, who do you think has dyslexia, dyspraxia, who has ADHD, and who has got social and health problems? Would it be the piece of artwork on the left or the piece of artwork on the right? So hands up if you think it's the one on the left, please. Don't be shy. Okay, hands down. How about on the right? Oh, that's really interesting. Well, they both do. You wouldn't believe that, would you? No. And this is what's quite phenomenal. I have got the pleasure, the privilege of meeting students who have got so many labels that you won't even believe. They've either got, they've got EAL, so English as an additional language, which means they can't actually access the English curriculum. They may have dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, what else? So many different complex special needs. But yet, when they are in the art room, in a safe environment, they don't have any of those labels. They don't have any of those labels. Do you know what that means? That means that they feel they can achieve in the arts. And not just in art, as in painting and drawing, but in music and in drama and in media. And this is the power of the arts. The arts give the students the opportunity to be immersed in a world, to explore their creativity, to feel confidence, to feel challenge. Now, and if you were to ask a 13 or a 14-year-old now, try that. No, miss, I'm going to make a mistake. Try it, I'm going to make a mistake. They are too frightened of making mistakes. They're too frightened to show themselves up with peers. And I'm loving how many of you are nodding this, because you know this, right? And we would never, nobody would want to be a teenager anymore, would they? Not in this day and age. But that's what our poor children are facing. They are facing a world whereby they're too frightened, and the arts are the subjects which help to build that resilience, which enables them to love failing and getting up. Love trying again, love experimenting, love exploring, and love the fact that, yes, I want to take a risk and see where it goes. And for me, what I completely feel really privileged is when we have those breakthrough moments, whereby recently, I'll tell you a story about this chap I teach called Tom. Now, Tom, bless him, he's 12 years old, and he is more or less more outside the classrooms being told off than he is inside the classrooms. He finds it very difficult working with other students. He finds it very difficult being in an environment where he has to quickly adapt. Tom can't write, and yet he's 12 years old. But my God, he can paint. Tom can paint. And when one day, which was wonderful, and I'll never forget this, I think for me, after the lesson I went home and I just was like, oh my God, started crying. But Tom, we were handing out work. So I was like, right, okay, whose work is this? Oh, okay, so this is Depeche's work. So what can we celebrate about Depeche's work? And, oh, miss, he's done this, he's done this. And then I raised Tom's work. So whose work is this? And then, I beg your pardon. I said, right, let's have a look at this work. And I was trying to find the name, like, whose work is this? And then the children were just saying, oh, miss, look at that, it's really nice. Look, oh, I like the way he painted, or I like the way he drew the shapes, or I like the way he's managed to capture the artist's influence. And I said, well, guys, whose work is this? And then you just see Tom, who was at this time at the back of the class where he likes being, raise his hand up like that. And the thing which captivated me was the fact that I didn't say anything, but the rest of the 30 students in that class cheered. They cheered for Tom, and for that moment, that tiny little moment, his life has indeed changed. And I know it's changed because his maths teacher, his science teacher, his modern foreign language teacher comes up to me and says to me, what has happened? what happened? And I said, no, just, this has happened. He goes, oh, he's really working well, and, he's concentrating. He's actually staying the whole hour in the class. So we must never underestimate the importance of the arts and how inclusive it is to everyone. However, we have got a situation which frustrates me, and I've heard it quite a lot this week, and that is, the value of STEM and the value of STEAM. Why are we categorizing our students? Why do we have to think that just because they feel they're not creative, they abandon that automatically? Why are we doing that? Why are we saying, okay, you're good at science, that's okay, so that's your route? I think everyone is good at everything, but we have to try and unlock that. And teachers, that's our job. We have to provide the opportunities to do that. And so I've got this piece of work on the wall because it is quite confusing and it's quite complex. The fact that you never know which way to turn. And the other thing which, again, is frustrating me. Sorry, I've had a brilliant week. But the other thing is the fact that I'm hearing the word and it just hurts. Art provides soft skills. What? Soft skills, what does that mean? For me, soft means weak. Are we weak? Do the arts give weak skills? I don't think so. They give human skills. They give skills which our children need to succeed in society, to meet people, to have a conversation, to be able to think outside the box, to be able to be creative, to be able to be problem solvers. That's what our subject provides. And I don't think that's soft at all. I think that is hard, but also human. So I have had the absolute pleasure of meeting many teachers all over the world this last 5 months, and it's been exciting. But I kind of know now why I am where I am, and that's an ambassador of teachers throughout the world. And it's when I see things like this. So this is a Time magazine article whereby I don't think I have to say, I mean, you've seen this, right? Yeah, you've seen this. And then I didn't believe it. And so what I did was I had the absolute honour and the pleasure to visit a school from another Varkey teacher ambassador, so another teacher, in New York yesterday. And I spoke to her colleagues. I said, look, I read this. Is this true? And they go, well, yeah, when I finish here, I'm going to go and be a waitress. And when I finish here, I'm going to go and be a valet. And I was blown away. What's going on? We need, as a society, to make sure that teachers are running into our profession, not leaving it. We need to make sure that we value our teachers, because how many times are we hearing that teachers are going on strike? Why are they going on strike? This is, in my opinion, the best, the only profession there is. Because what we do, we plant the seeds, we inspire, we grow, we nurture every other profession. We are it, people. We are the ones. So we need to make sure that we raise our voices and we shout out loud to whoever can hear us to make sure that we now are valuing the teachers. Because unfortunately, and I'm so sad about this, that not everyone can have the incredible opportunity that I've had this year. I would love that to be the case, but I don't think that's possible. So please make sure that you join me in doing this, and also joining your other colleagues and supporting each other. We must achieve this, because this, in my opinion, is unacceptable. And lastly, I want to share you a story. So this is an incredible piece of artwork that happened 3 weeks ago in my school. This student arrived when they were 12 years old. So that was last year, actually. They arrived from Serbia, so they were refugees, and the journey was quite extraordinary for them. So what happened was they secretly had to flee the country. The British made a very, an escape route for this family to come to the UK. And as a result, the students attended my school. Now, these students went to school back at home. They can't speak the language, but they are highly skilled individuals. And my concern is that we sometimes get really worried the fact that if they can't communicate with us and they can't learn. And that, my friends, is why another reason why the arts are magical. They're magical simply because we don't need language, we don't need words, because we can create things like this, which speaks volumes. When I visited the school yesterday, I was invited to attend a music class, and I think, again, that was just, you know, goosebumps everywhere. So the project was that there was a music teacher there, and he wanted to collaborate with other schools all over the world. And he built an orchestra from 4 different countries. They got together, he designed the piece, he created the piece, and they all played it. And the students in the school took part in that as well. My first question to them was, you know, how did it feel? You know, you were working, what did you learn? And they said, Miss, what we learned was that, you know, it wasn't about the person behind the instrument. It was the fact that the instrument was the talent, the instrument was that person. And I was really heartstruck by that, because even at that young age, we need to make sure that our voices in terms of uniting our children are one. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter the colour of your skin, how long you've been in the country. What matters is that we can all achieve, celebrate, and create magic through the power of the arts. Thank you. I'll leave on sitting.
Okay.
Which way should I sit? I'll go over here.
Whichever. Thank you, Andrea.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening, and thank you for staying.
So I want to start by asking you 2 questions that relate to the prize, and then we'll go in some other directions.
Okay.
The first question is, what was it like at the Alperton Community School the day you came back after winning the prize? What happened?
So when I arrived in the UK, I won't tell you what happened. They were waiting. My class was waiting, and teachers, and my colleagues were waiting. Some of them were waiting at Heathrow Airport for me when I landed. And that was quite bizarre, because this was a 7 o'clock in the morning landing. Can you imagine getting teenagers up at that morning to get to Heathrow Airport? And apparently, just listening to all my colleague friends are like, oh my God, the head teacher was going, you know, he just couldn't do it. You know, he was going. So, and it was just beautiful. They were there waiting for me. And that gave me so much strength, because at that time I was kind of flagging a bit, you know. And that gave me strength. And then I think when I actually got back to the school building, that was really special, because we had camera crew and the students were there on parade, you know, lining up and greeting me. But behind the double doors, and I shouldn't say this ever, guys, don't ever quote this, because this is bad for a teacher. But I have...
This is on live stream.
Oh, well, sod it.
Just want to mention.
Okay, but I have a favourite class, or I have a favourite class that I've grown. I've had them, luckily I've had them year after year for the last 4 years. And they came down from the other school building. We've got 2 school buildings, and they knew that I was coming, so they came down. They were waiting behind the double doors. And then the moment once the camera crew left, or I thought they left, I saw them, and then they were like, so I opened the doors and just, you know, ran to them. And that was wonderful.
Good. I don't think anyone missed when I was doing the introduction that this is a prize that comes with $1 million. Did anyone miss that? Did anyone spend even a moment thinking, wow, what do you do? My first moment was, that's a lot of art supplies.
Yeah.
But Andrea, you've been thinking about that a lot, and you've been making some very important moves, and I wonder if you could share a bit about that.
So, can you remember when I said that I found it difficult to choose, to be able to convince my parents that I wanted to choose the arts, yeah? I think that one of the reasons in my school and in many other schools why the numbers of students taking up the arts, and this is all of the arts, is going down is because we are not exposing them or teaching them what it actually is by having artists meet with our students. And in some of our schools, it's very difficult for us to take them to museums. I'm in London, I'm really lucky I can. However, they don't go to museums because they're too frightened. It's not their world. You know? Why would they go on a Saturday to a museum when they can be at home playing on their Xbox? So, and the danger of that is that they've got so much incredible culture that is there on their doorstep that they're not being exposed to. So that's one part. And then we've got another part whereby our children aren't choosing them because the arts, because they don't know what the careers are like. They don't know that they could be so successful as a creative designer, working backstage in a theatre company, working in the film industry, working in the graphics department, working in jobs which they haven't even created, but which are fundamental for the art subjects to be part of. So my calling is to make sure that we get the artists, all artists, into schools, to try and inspire our children. If we get one child out of 30, out of 40, out of 1,000, I don't care, but that's job done in my case. That child will now know that there is a future, there is hope, there's destiny, and that will then go back, because they will then go back to the school and say, this is me, I had to make that tough decision, this is what you need to do.
So first of all, let me just say that when in the years that I was teaching in high schools in Boston, one of the things that became very, very clear to me was that young people's ideas about careers in the theater, well, I was teaching theater, but in the arts generally, were wild guesses, because they had not met people who'd made their lives that way. And if you've not had it, I began to feel that even more important than going to a museum and seeing works of art or going to a theater and seeing a play was to meet the people who do this work themselves, to try to understand why and how they make their lives that way. What will you be doing with this? This money?
So I've set up a charity which is called Artists in Residence. I'm still teaching. I'm working 2 days a week in my school, and my charity is based in my school. I don't think my head teacher wanted me to leave at that point. It's connecting schools with artists. So I have a pilot number of schools in London. At the moment, we're basing it in London. It will then go universal, I guarantee it. And what we are doing is we are matchmaking. So we are inviting artists to join us and say, I'm interested in coming to do a small project with the school, with a group of students, or I might want to do an assembly, or vice versa. I will ask the school, right, what is it you need? Do you have an issue in your drama department? Our numbers going down. Do you need somebody to come in and do some technical drawing for life drawing or for architecture? What is it you need? And then matchmake it like that, so that at least we are getting the professionals into the schools. And, and also I think what's the benefit of this is that the actual teachers, the specialists in the schools themselves will be learning. So we are also providing professional development for the school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what the program is like, and it's so exciting. I mean, it's fantastic.
So that makes perfect sense. I think that's a very important thing to do, and it's made me, in thinking about how young people understand how people make a choice to spend either their professional lives or just some part of their life. I mean, I don't I don't feel that every student that I've worked with needs to go become a professional actor. In fact, that's not the right thing for many people. But to have the idea that I can have creative work be part of my daily life, my weekly life, what I do in the times that I control my time seems an incredible gift and opportunity. But it got me thinking about how many children in math classes ever meet a mathematician, or actually people who do historical research for their work, or any of the other things that we're asked to study. So I began to wonder whether the idea of the artist in residence, which some people are worried it replaces the art teacher. I don't think that's what you're talking about. But whether this is actually a model for all of the disciplines, so that people can, young people can actually understand, what do human beings do, like when that's their daily life?
Because you'll find that as teachers, I have worked in industry before, being a teacher, and I thought
What was that?
I was a designer before I decided to enroll into teaching, or the period I was going to enroll into teaching. And Can
I ask you just about that, about being a designer?
So when I graduated from university, I was offered a job in the US, and that was, and it was a design job, and they had London offices as well. Now, I was absolutely determined to be one of those teachers, even when I was, young, because I'm very young now still, obviously, Steve, right? Yeah.
Like me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Who knew what they were teaching about, who actually could say, look, and this is what it was like as a designer. I had to do this with my customers. I had to keep the deadline. This was a production line that we have to do. And so I wanted to be able to speak the language, so to give them clarity. Because if you're teaching out of a textbook, if you're trying to teach a lesson, you need to make it real to them. And I think that was my decision that I wanted to do. And it has really been beneficial having that experience. But I do think also that it is vital that we introduce our students to the real world, bring the industries into our schools, connect them, because our students need to have that vision. It can't just be, right, I'm going to be working towards my A-levels and then the next at universities and then what? No, they need to, from the early age, they need to start thinking, that's where I think I'm going. You may diverse, that's okay, that's completely natural, that's your destiny, but that's where I need to go to. And I think the people who should do this is the industries themselves.
Yeah. So what happened? You were working as a designer, and that seemed to be your path. Yeah. But then
for the teaching, I missed the teaching application period. So I had to wait because we have to, in the UK, you've got to apply when the window opens to a certain university, and there was one university I was going to go to. That was it. I was only going to apply to one, and that opened then, and that's what I did. So I managed to get into that, which was very fortunate. So I had that year, and I took that decision, and the rest is history. So once I graduated from my teacher training course, I then applied to Alperton. They had, I'll never forget this, it was hilarious. Applications started in January. The job interviews went out in January, and my interview was in February. So I went to my school, and it was an absolute dump. I mean, the art department was in the tower, which was over there. The classroom I taught in was on the top floor. There was the windows were broken. There was snow coming in. The kids just came out from recess or break, and they brought snowballs into the classroom. It was, there was the paper was hanging off the wall. The display was, centuries old. It was a very unloved, unkept room, and the students had at that time a really poor art experience. And so I remember going into that classroom, and I just thought, wow, this I actually feel scared. There was missiles of snow flowing everywhere. I felt sad. I was like, no, let's just do this and let's just see what happens. And so I taught the lesson, And I will never forget this. I will never forget this. I thought that, when I left that classroom, there's no way I'm going to apply. I don't want to get a job here. Even if they offered it to me, I'm not going to take it. Oh God, I won't survive. So I write in my will. I'll never forget, there was 2 girls at the end of the lesson who I still keep in touch with, actually, and who said to me, "Miss, are you going to stay here? Are you going to come back? Can you come back?"
Right after the sample lesson.
Yeah, and so how can you refuse that? They just needed to be inspired. They needed to, to have that person to unlock the door. They just needed someone to hold their hand and guide them. And that's what happens. Those poor students in that classroom, they were just exposed to bad teaching after bad teaching after poor teaching. And so after that, I just thought, yes, I'm going to do this, roll my hands up, and it's just been brilliant ever since.
But brilliant in your little corner of the school, or has there really been a transformation in the school? And if so...
Oh, yeah. I mean, the art department is one of the highest achieving departments in our school. When we went in there originally, the curriculum and I say we, it's because myself and my colleague, I was lucky enough to have another colleague start at the same time as me, so two retired and then 2 went in, and we were newly qualified teachers at that time. So we were fresh, we were like fresh out of teaching college, really excited. We're going to change the world, right? And we did. And we did. And it was,
as it turns out.
Yeah, we did. It was great. It was, we all just looked at what resources were there and what was available at the time, and it was dry. You're thinking, I probably would have used these worksheets thousands of years ago. So we changed things slowly. The head teacher at that time, the principal, she was really excited that we were coming in and, bringing new ideas and fresh ideas into the school. Literally, she says, how much do you want? What do you need? And so, we had a leader who understood, and that's the key. If you're lucky enough to work in a school whereby your leadership has a vision and you can buy into that vision, and, it's going to be a struggle, but you keep on that same train going in that same direction with your leader, that is half the job done. Because then you feel that you've got the support mechanisms to grow, to develop, and that's what we've done. So we have, we've got lots of awards, the Arts Mark Award in the school. Our results are always one of the best subjects in schools. We've got students being architects, being designers, even in a community where this is not ideal, where our students should be doing or studying other subjects and, English, maths and science and going to be doctors, which is, fine. But we achieved that. And so, yeah, it's great. It's a great, fantastic team.
Okay, so I'm going to just keep
Go on. Keep it going.
Peeling back a little bit around this kind of transformation, because I think this is the concern that's shared in many, many, many communities and many, many countries, is how do we take schools that are not the spaces that we all want them to be, and get them to another place. And you all were doing that from within. So I'm going to just ask you a couple of other questions. One, were there district or national initiatives that were supporting the work you were doing, or were you working against district and national initiatives, or both?
At that time, we didn't know anyone doing what we wanted to do. There wasn't that many, we weren't getting any information from universities and information from museums. We didn't know what was out there for support, so we did everything ourselves. I know that we've got the issue whereby resources, where teachers are buying resources, but I was lucky enough to live at home with my parents, so I was able to spend a lot of money buying my resources for my students. I didn't begrudge that, because I thought, this will be great. I wanted them to have such an incredible art experience, because I knew that they were having, tough experiences in the rest of the school. They need to have something they can come into, a world they can come into, whereby they could be creative, they can enjoy, explore, just be in their own world And yeah, and I was happy to do that.
But when you say we, the entire faculty, you and your colleague and the principal, who's the we that was making this happen?
Well, I'm quite bossy. I'm quite bossy. I'm quite driven. I have had the best of everything in my arts education. Where I went to high school, it was fantastic. I was very lucky enough to go to great high school, and I can still remember that, there was so much money in that school, and they had arts materials coming out of every pore, every cupboard, and, I knew that I enjoyed that. I knew I enjoyed being exposed to that, so I wanted to try and recreate that. And I am such a believer of sharing and giving to others. So I would, whatever work I would do, I would say to my colleague, this is what I'm doing, and then he would learn to be, all right, this is what I'm doing. And so we started up, we were a great team. We just always collaborate. And when you are working in a department, and luckily enough, my department is 4 people strong, but when you've got a department whereby you are constantly in dialogue and working with each other and you're not in your own silo, then you feel like you can experiment and explore, and it's not just always you deciding and you reinventing the wheel, that you have got support. Right.
You've got support with your team.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also critically, you had support from your head teacher, the principal. She
knew that there was, she was such an inspiring role model, absolutely phenomenal. She just had the vision. She was one of those people whereby, that's where I want to be. I don't know how we're going to get there, but that's where I want to be. And you wanted that. You wanted to be in that particular boat or train. You wanted to buy into that vision because you knew that she had you. Mm-hmm. She knew that she won't, if you make a mistake, that's fine. You're learning from that.
Is she still there?
She's not. No, she's not. She's now working, leading a group of schools in Kuala Lumpur. But we're very much still in touch because, yeah.
And is the new leadership supportive in the same ways? Because, there must be almost every person in this room knows too painfully the problem of changes of leadership that change the course, shift values.
What do you think?
Well, let me go. Yes, I think you did. You got a leader.
Sometimes I feel so sorry for my principal. I don't think he has a choice.
Well, that's actually an incredibly interesting and important moment when the culture of a school is so strong and so many people have bought in that the new leadership doesn't really have a choice. Do you think that's what's happening?
No, I just think that he can see that there is evidence of result, that there is evidence of good practice, there's evidence of students achieving. And yes, it's difficult to change a fixed mindset, very difficult. But then when you have got the evidence and when you've got someone who's really bossy and annoying like myself and who will argue that my way is the only way, and here is the evidence why, and I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway because that's how stubborn I am, it works.
You and I were talking before a little bit about issues of quality in terms of classrooms and schools and learning experiences. And I was saying to Andria briefly just before this session that I worked on a study about quality in arts learning experiences and how people understand that. And I kept, at the beginning of the study, I kept approaching it by asking people, so what constitutes quality in arts learning? Kind of a straight up question. And at least the first dozen of people that I tried this with said pretty much the exact same thing. They said, I can't really answer that question, but I do know what it looks like. I know it when I see it. And finally, I started to shift my interview technique and just started by asking people, so when you walk into a room and in a classroom, and it looks to you like what you really want to see. What does it look like? And they started to actually give us incredible insight into what quality means in arts learning experiences. So when you walk into a room in your school, in the art area or in any other area, and it's really what you want to see. It's a room that you don't want to leave.
Yeah. Because
what's happening is so powerful and so exciting. What does it look like?
So there's many versions of this perfect world. I want to see when I'm observing lessons, I'm going and seeing other teachers teach outside of the arts faculty. I want to see students literally jumping off their chairs, answering questions, especially when they're young. But I want to be able to see them leading the learning. So I want them to be in charge of their own learning and making their own decisions and be completely submerged in their world. I want to see challenge. I want to see them challenging the teacher and saying, but why? But how? And vice versa. And I want the students to leave that classroom and wanting to go back and learn or carry on with their work and can't rush to come back into the environment. I think that's, for me, is really important. Mm-hmm. I don't like seeing performances. I don't think, when I'm observing lessons, I don't see that. It's all for me, what are the students doing? Are they learning? Is that what's taking place in the classroom? And in the art room, what I love seeing is when you go into an art room or a music room and you just see the students in their own zone, completely away from everything. And then you more or less can't recognize who is the teacher or where the teacher is, because they just facilitate the learning. We're just there to support them. You know, we go and fill up their pots if you think, oh, let me just quickly change that for you. You carry on, you know, or just try that line instead, or let me remove that rubber from you or that razor so that you don't actually you ban you from using that. So it's about being in an environment where you can see them lost in what they're doing, being mindful, being completely involved in creating and taking part of a journey where they may not know where it goes, but they're on that journey and they're working either in groups or as individuals.
So I've been in schools that are incredibly well resourced, but when I walked into the room, I did not see that. So I'm never making an argument against resources, that they should be a right of every child's experience in school. But what do you think are the kind of crucial keys to creating that environment?
There's only one thing. Relationships. If you as a young teacher or going into a classroom, you don't know your children and they don't know you, nothing will take place. Deep learning, trust, the ability to want to undertake this journey into exploring the subject will not take place. There's got to be a mutual understanding, a passion of why history is the best subject in the world, why maths is the best subject in the world, and you only do that by building relationships with your students, getting to know them.
So, two questions there. What is most important for you to know about your students? And what do you think is particularly important for them to know about you?
Oh, they're tough. Tough questions. Are you always like this? Are you always like this?
The easy questions.
So what do I want to know about them?
You know what? Let's just do something here.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Think about that for a second. Yeah. Let's just Andria's just been going for an hour here. Just take a moment and think about that. And then we'll just come back in a second. We can do that, right? So the question is, what's important to know about your students, and what's important for them to know about you? What do you think?
I think what they should know about me is that I am good at what I do. I'm a good teacher. And they only will know that is if I get down, roll my sleeves up and show them. So I will teach them well. And if they ask me a question, I will answer it. Honestly, truly. And if I don't know the answer, I will say, I don't know that. So it's about being honest as well. What I want to know about them is everything. Everything. I love people. I'm quite happy to sit and talk to anyone. For the whole of my day, I love it. I love learning about cultures. I love learning about what they do, what they, what did you eat last night? What did you have for dinner? What did you watch on TV? And you find out the most incredible information, like, Miss, I didn't have dinner last night. Or, no, well, my dad was home, but I didn't want to be in the same room as him. Or, yada, yada, yada. So that's when that's when I do my thing. That's when I do my mum thing, and I'm like, right, okay, we need to fix this. I'm not happy with this. And that's why I'm really passionate about the fact that I need to know who I have in front of me. I need to know who my audience is, because they won't trust me. They won't believe me when I'm saying to them, I will get you through this course. Whatever I have, I will give to you. Whatever's up here, you've got, no problem. But you only do that if it's a two-way thing. And I think it's about getting to know them.
Okay.
Is that a good answer? I thought it was all right. I'm banking that. I like that answer.
It's great. You talked, I want to ask you one question about early teachers, and then I want to spend a minute or just a couple minutes looking at this remarkable piece of work that you shared with us, and then we'll open it up for thoughts and questions, okay? You said that high school was a very powerful learning environment for you, and I'm just curious, can you you have a very, you clearly have a very strong image and sense of what a teacher can and should be, and I'm curious about where it came from and whether it was from any of those teachers you had in high school, from someplace and sometime earlier, some mix.
Do you know, I do have, when we all say, do you have a favourite teacher? Yes, I have a favourite teacher. But I've been reflecting quite a lot on this wonderful journey that I've been experiencing. And I think there's not one person, but many people. I can say it could be my grandmother, who was a typical Greek yaya who was completely inspiring. My mother, my head teacher, my father, people who I have met and who I have really been inspired by. Colleagues who I now have, who are my dearest friends, they've been my teachers. So there's not one person as such, but many people who I've just been so fortunate enough to have in my life, influencing me, guiding me on my journey.
Great, great. So can we spend a minute with this work? So I spend a lot of my time looking at things that children make in school, and I've been doing that for the last 25 or so years. And we could and happily sit with a work like this. We're looking at it back there, you're looking at it up here. You've had a chance now, while we've been talking, to look at this work. And I would love to just take a minute and ask you to just kind of notice what's most striking to you about it. What strikes you about this work? What do you notice? Maybe I could just ask a couple of people to share. We won't even necessarily use microphones. Oh, no, we have to because of the live stream. So are there three people that would share something that you noticed that's striking? Sue, could you just run over to the microphone or past that? That'd be great.
The eyes.
The eyes.
The eyes.
Thank you. Anyone else? One more here.
The shading and the lighting on her face and on her hair.
Shading and lighting on her face and on her hair. Is everybody seeing these? Yeah.
Building off what Sue said, just the intensity of the emotion in her face, and that's coming through her eyes.
Can you say what conveys intensity of emotion? What do you see there that communicates that to you?
She's not smiling.
She's not smiling.
And as a child, not smiling, it shows a very intense look.
Let's get one more over here.
I think there's also an intensity from the contrast of her clothing and her face. So there's the color for one, and also the evocation of pastels that kind of shows her age, but it's in contrast to her expression and what she may be looking at.
Beautiful. Could everybody hear that? Yes? Okay. So just as a quick check, does everybody feel like they've noticed now everything that's been pointed to? Did you notice something now that you hadn't completely taken in before? Do you have any questions about this artist? Because we've got someone who might be able to answer these questions. So if you have these questions tomorrow, don't hold on to it. Anything that you would want to know about this human being who made this work?
Yeah.
I don't know if you said this. Yeah, actually, yeah. Sorry.
Thank you.
I don't know if you told us this, but what's the age of, I have two. What's the age of the artist? And also, who is this person
Okay, so
in relationship to the
that
artist?
13-year-old, 2 months in, no, let me just get this right. 3 months in from being a refugee, entering my school as a refugee. That is extraordinary for that age group. So as an art teacher, I would expect that from at least a 16-year-old. That would be an average. But this child has got a gift. And to display it using found materials in an art room, whereby they've never used, and these are oil pastels, they've never used oil pastels ever before. And what they found a photograph. So remember, they've just, they had to flee in the middle of the night. Okay, packed all their belongings. The British Army managed to bring them secretly to the UK for whatever reason. They found themselves in Bryant, they found themselves at Alperton Community School. They found themselves knocking on the door saying, have you got a place? And I was, yes, absolutely, welcome, come, we've got you. And they came into, and what happens then is because of the language barriers, we don't automatically throw them in to have every other subjects. We give them a small induction, so we keep them slightly away, working in smaller groups whereby we give them lots of English lessons and English training. However, for subjects such as PE, physical education, music, the arts, maths, we do ask them to integrate with the rest of the class. And when this child did this piece of work in front of my eyes, I mean, that it just resonated what I always say, and that's the fact that art is the most inclusive subject that there is. And it needs to be appreciated more.
Thank you. I thank you for taking this little bit of time to just focus on on this work, because it always feels to me that when students share their work with us, we need to meet it with curiosity and generosity. So let's open up. Ready for some thoughts, questions? Would anybody like to ask Andria a question or share a thought? Please come on over. Yeah, be great if you, when you, please let us know your name and.
Hi. Hi, my name's Nate. I'm in the education policy program here. So I was struck by your discussion of the importance of having educational leaders with a vision that matches that of the teachers that they work with. But I find, as someone in the policy side of education, that there's this disconnect between the people who are providing the resources that teachers like you need in order to do the work that you should be doing, and the people on the ground level who have those visions. So do you have any suggestions from your experience in how to maybe bridge that gap a little better, and for a subject like art that maybe can't be standardized in the way that a lot of policymakers view as the only way to assess the effectiveness of a subject?
I think you've answered your own question. And that's to get the policymakers to get themselves into schools. I don't think I know of many ministers of education who actively attend schools and actively speak to the children, because where is the students' voice reports? Because when you hear things like, what's the impact of the arts, it blows my mind. I'm like, go and speak to a child. Go and ask them what it's given them and how it's tracked. The other thing I say is speak to the parents. Speak to the governors, the school leaders. Go and speak to the teachers themselves and ask them questions. Come and walk in my shoes and see what your feelings are. And not just in my shoes, but all different types of schools as well. Does that help you, yeah? Absolutely. Thank you. Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello. Hello. My name is Usha Satish. I'm in the International Education Policy Program. My question is around teacher burnout. You seem extremely high energy, and you seem like someone who's so passionate about kids and about teaching and about learning. I've taught for 5 years. I taught 2 years in Miami-Dade through Teach for America, and then I taught 3 years at a KIPP school in DC. And when people ask me that question, I say, oh, the kids keep me there. The kids, it's about the kids and my love for the kids. And then I kind of end that statement and pick up my beverage. But beyond the kids, right? Because we all love the kids. How have you seen in your years of teaching effective ways of retaining quality teachers from a leadership level? Because I know you spoke about your department and how you've had those 4 strong folks in your department from time and time again, but that's not always the case. And when you have a really strong department that has a high teacher turnover rate, it does mess up systems. So how do you keep it together and avoid that teacher burnout? Short version.
Who says I keep it together? Does this look like a No. Right. So my other job in my school is that I'm in charge of professional development. So I'm really lucky that I get to grow other members of staff. And the thing about it is that teachers are so self-conscious. They're so worried about getting it right and doing it right. And, we are performers. We're very vulnerable in our classrooms because we give everything. And yet we're very critical. So I think what's really important is that teachers have got the opportunity to be mentored, to be coached by somebody who they trust. There needs to be somebody there who's looking, you can work with, who you can share ideas with. That's absolutely key. But I think, I don't know well-being. I haven't got that quite right yet in my life. All I know is that I was a teacher before I became a mother and a wife. So in my world, I'm quite fortunate enough to have the support to say, just go and do your thing, we've got you. But I know that that's not the case of many people. And I know that I have got staff in my school who are leaving the profession because they can't do it anymore. And either they can't afford to live in London, they're moving out, or they just can't manage or take the pressures of, number one, you're accountable for every single child's progress in your class. It's your responsibility. If that child doesn't make that target, it's your, you know, come on. So there is that burden, plus the fact that your weekends are never your weekends because you're either planning or you're marking, and at 1 o'clock in the morning you can all see who's a teacher because the lights are still on in your house. We don't have half terms, we don't have breaks, we work during our breaks. We don't get overtime, do we? No. So while we're still in the profession, how do we stop burnout? Well, when you enter the profession, you need to be that person who, this is what I want to do. And I'm going to stay, and this is why I'm doing it. And to hold on to those incredible moments, because like Usha, like 80% of the time, I'm ripping my hair out and I'm having, you know, very interesting conversations with people who I work with and with the students. And I'm just thinking, like, you know, this is tough. But we have got opportunities, and we do get that 20% magic moments. So when the child does that amazing thing, like they produce an incredible piece of work, or, you know, it's their birthday and they bring a cake to give to you, you know, and you know that there's no money in that house, but yet they want to share food with you because they appreciate you. And that's what you hold on to. Forget everything else. Everything else is, you know, whatever. But just hold on to those particular beautiful, special moments that keep you going through life. And that will keep you going. And, you know, I've got faith, actually, because there's a lot of concerns now in terms of teacher well-being, the fact that so many teachers are leaving the profession, that the policymakers have got no choice but to start listening, because very soon there won't be anyone teaching, specialist teaching in the classroom. And if that's not the case, if that's the case, then, you know, what kind of an economy are we going to have in the future? Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Usha. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Paola, and I'm in the Educational Policy Management Program. And earlier in your talk, you talked about how within the families, there's often the message that the arts isn't a way to make money and not a way for their children to go into a career. In your classroom, so there's like two questions to this. In your classroom, what strategies do you use to engage parents, especially those that are refugees who don't speak the language? And then I was curious, within your charity, are you encouraging also family involvement so they can have exposure to artists?
Really good question. So the first question is, I remember that nobody helped me make that crucial decision about taking up the arts. So I go to parents' houses, I make an appointment, I see them, I say, look, I need to speak to you. Trust me, they will get a good grade. Trust me, they'll be okay. Trust me. And I normally I've actually established a fantastic relationship with the parents with the children that I teach. So I think that's the big thing. And again, it's showing them what it could be like. So opening their eyes. Because don't forget, you know, our parents are really worried. Their children are going to be having huge debts when they leave university. So they want to make sure they're secure by having jobs to go to. And if our parents don't know the opportunities which the art subjects could bring, then how are they going to, you know, they're taking a risk with their child. And as a parent, I get that. But again, we can't let this down. We've got to persevere with this. So that answers hopefully that part of your question, Paola. And the other part is, I think naturally it will happen. I'm not going to be focusing on that. I think the schools could do that, because I think parents like, bless you, parents like coming to schools. They feel that schools are in you know, back at home, that schools are they've done all the screening and they've done the job. So, you know, whatever happens in the schools is okay. so they will quite happily get the answers from a school. But at the moment, I'm more passionate about just making sure that we do get the quality artists into the schools to do the activities with the students. Hopefully, the teachers also will pick up, learn, and use that as conversations to go back to their parents and the communities.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. I think we'll do Jordan's question and one more.
Hi. Is this on?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. It's like...
Are you Jordan?
Really here. Yes. Nice to meet you. So I'm in the Arts and Education program, and I primarily work in musical theater and theater education. And I would just like to know, because I'm always interested in integrating other art forms into my work, what is your favorite, just like a taste of... like your favorite lesson plan or something that, like the activity that each year your kids get so excited to do, something innovative and fun.
Oh, that's hard. hard. I don't like teaching lessons which are not fun, not fun, but not interesting, you know, because I always think that, I always say to myself, right, well, if I was a student, would I like me, or would I be somebody who would learn from me as a teacher? So I'd flip it. You know, will they learn? Will they enjoy that? Will they engage in that? So I'm always having those conversations and those conflicts when I'm planning lessons and delivering lessons. That's one thing. But my favourite thing is for them to not have a moment of peace. So they're always, you know, doing something or engaged in something. Then I say, right, get up, walk around the room, see other people's work, right, sit down. So every minute is accounted for. Unless they need to do a long piece of work, but then sometimes when you leave students to do long pieces of work, they just get, you know, it just drags on. So you've always got to be on it. So for me, it's time management, making sure that every minute is accounted for in that lesson.
Thank you.
And one more? Yeah.
She's got a book. It's going to be a long essay, isn't it?
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
My name is Lindsay. I'm also in the Arts and Education program, and I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about the professional development that you do to support the teachers in your school, and related to that, how you feel the work and impact of your art department has rippled out into other subjects and through the administration.
I came across a quote, which I'm really rubbish at remembering quotes, Steve. I don't know what's wrong with me, but it was a quote by Richard Branson that says, if you invest in your staff well, then they will give back to you, or they will look after you. Mm-hmm. And I thoroughly, that's my mantra. If you invest in people and you give them all the tools they need and you try and help to solve their problems, they will give you so much more. And so the so much more is incredible educational experiences in their classrooms. So I do believe in investing staff. I will try, I'm quite creative in how I think and how I work. So if I know that a member of staff is struggling on something, I will say, right, go and see that person over there. I'll make that happen, that relationship happen. Or I'll call up another school and I'll say, right, we've got a crisis. Can you please come and just do some mentoring? Or can we come and visit your school? Or can I do a partnership with you? So I'm always trying to find ways of solving problems and collaborating. What I always do, though, and this is key, is I listen. I don't think that I have got all the problems. I can't solve all the problems. I think they need to be coached to find the problems as well. Because if you're always firefighting as a leader, then nothing ever gets done. So you've got to start giving responsibility to the teachers themselves to also be able to solve the problems and to carry on. But I love it when you hear staff saying to you, I've just taught the best lesson, I used your technique. You're like, oh, great, Or when you hear in the corridors, the kids are saying they're coming out of their lesson. I was like, how was it? And they're like, Miss, she's really good, isn't she? She's really good. I was like, brilliant, she's got it. She's getting there. Or when you hear, and this is like, my heart kind of breaks, when you hear somebody who comes into your office and you sit down like that and they come in and they're like, And you're like, oh my God, you're gonna, and then they say, Andrea, I'm really sorry. I'm like, what job have you got? So they've actually gained promotion. Now, God, that's incredible. You know, so you've helped somebody develop and you've helped them achieve beyond what they could imagine. And now they're actually gaining promotions in either your school or another school. I mean, that's beautiful. And I always have a conflict with my head teacher because he always says to me, look, Andrea, there's some of them are leaving there. You know, you're developing them too well that they're getting jobs outside of school. I'm like, aha. But look, there's somebody there waiting to step into that role. I've got someone ready for you. And I think that's what it is continually looking at where you can help somebody improve their practice. And, you know, just being completely open to it as well.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Andrea, do you have any last thoughts you want to share with folks?
I don't think so. I think I'm just so surprised you're still here. You've remained in this room. Thank you very much for being amazing audiences. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrea, I just want to say that it is a pleasure to meet you, to be talking in dialogue with
you. Stephen. Likewise.
And I'm struck in every way by the tremendous humanness and the heart that is present in every aspect of what you shared with us tonight and clearly what you do. I want to make sure that somehow you have a photograph of you here, Harvard, and that so you can show it to the artist.
Yeah, they would love that.
And to thank her for sharing her work with us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you all.